Welcome back, Rankers. How you going? Now, it's been a big week for the world, really. Let's face it, and I'm not going to labour the point, but I will just touch on it now, and that is, of course, my book launch. I'm just kidding. But that is important. And I will come back to that. But Google Trends is back to normal, and I'm not going to talk about it. I'm not even going to sort of say anything more about it. But certainly, my prediction was correct last week, yet again. So that's only one I've got wrong in 20 years of using Google Trends or Google Insights for Search. Okay, speaking of 20 years and Google's Insights for Search, apparently it's our 19th birthday on YouTube today. So thank you very much, everyone who has been subscribing and sharing the content. And yeah, I didn't realize, but yeah, we're now going into our 20th year. So how about that? But on the book, it has launched finally. And I'm really happy with some of the response I'm getting. And we launched it at a webinar that I did, which is probably the most interest I've had in any webinar I've ever done. And that was all about a lot of the content that's in the book, but obviously not all of it because I can't get to all of the content. And it was only a half-hour webinar. But thank you very much, everyone who attended that webinar. We had a lot of interest and certainly a lot of feedback from that webinar. And we've already had a whole bunch of people go out and get the book. I think we're up to 90 now from that webinar. So thank you so much, everyone. And a lot of the questions that we were getting at the end were around some of the areas that I'm thinking about where this is heading. So I'm not necessarily thinking, in the next 2 months or even, dare I say, 2 years. I'm sort of thinking more 3 or 4 years. And what I'm thinking about is what's the future of business online? Are we going to have websites even? And these are some of the questions I address in the book and some of the things we talk about in the webinar itself. And of course, the other big thing that happened the day after the webinar was that Search GPT was launched. Now, if you haven't used it, I'm not sure if it's available to everyone or only people using the paid version. But, for instance, it does local search. And that to me is quite extraordinary. I don't know whether it's going to know where I live, but let's just try it out. So let's do a local search, and we'll just go restaurants. I can type with great reviews near me. Let's see what it comes up. Searching the web, because I haven't specifically told it my address. Oh, it's getting it from my IP address because it thinks I'm in Sydney, right? And that's interesting because it's a little bit creepy, but that's where it's getting from. The reason it thinks I'm in Sydney is because I'm on Starlink, and Starlink has an IP address of Sydney. So that's interesting. So now I'm going to give it information of where I live. I live on the Mornington, and see if it lies to me. I live on the Mornington, oops, typing without glasses is probably not a good idea. Mornington Peninsula. This is the Peninsula dial. Peninsula in Victoria. I'm not even going to say Australia because it's already got Sydney, so it should know Australia. And then I'm going to ask it, why did you give me Sydney restaurants? I didn't know Stillwater was at Dramano. There you go. That's interesting. 10 minutes by tractor I've been to. It's awesome. Now, I'm going to ask it, why did you think I was in Sydney? Okay. So I didn't lie, but it just sort of went and did it. Okay, so now it's going to know everything I do that it's where I live. So it should now, in the next sort of chat sessions, because I've got memory switched on, tell me where it is. Now, that's great. I can go and ask it more questions about that. I can't do that with Google, right? and this is what I'm talking about in the book, is that the reason these tools will proliferate, and it's not, people are worried about things like, or they're doing sort of comparisons, oh, Search GPT isn't going to kill Google. Well, I don't think anything like this is going to kill Google. I think Google's going to have to evolve, though, faster than what it's currently doing before its revenue starts to dwindle. It's $237 billion in revenue, because there's going to be a myriad of these out there, right? Because we're looking at all sorts of tools that are evolving right now using a whole variety of different AI tools, which are going to negate the need for you to actually go and do a search. So, you look at Perplexity AI, and we've shown graphs before where we see searches for the Python language model, which is now officially the most popular coding language on GitHub, and yet its searches on Google are dropping through the floor. And that drop has started since January 2023, right? So that's when ChatGPT came online. And people are saying in our industry, oh, it's not a big deal, it's not a big deal. Not right now, but it's moving fast, right? And this is why I'm saying to businesses, and why I wrote the book. Did I mention the book? Why I wrote the book is because unless you get on board with these sorts of things now and get around your head around what's going on, then you're going to be behind the eight ball, because your competition is going to be one step ahead of you. And that's why one of the things that we talked about last week at the webinar was a new report that we're bringing out, and it's in, you can see there, it's in test mode at the moment, and why it's so cheap, and that is our brand intelligence report. And what that is doing is going off and looking at a number of different large language models and finding out how your brand has been reported in those large language models and how it compares to your competitors. And we've already had a bit of interest in that. We've got a few reports being generated this week that are going out. So thank you to those people who've jumped on board for that. And I do this with every client now. Whenever I have a meeting with a client, I say, okay, let's see what ChatGPT thinks of your brand. Have you gone and done that search yourself in ChatGPT? You really should. And you should do it in Perplexity, and you should do it in Gemini, and you should do it in Claude. So this brand intelligence report is actually going off and doing those searches, and it's got a whole list of responses or a whole list of criteria that we want it to go and check and give us that feedback in a nice report. And the reason that we're doing that is because it's not as time consuming as doing it manually in ChatGPT, but like we use, say, incognito mode with Google search, what I've just shown you there about my ChatGPT, let's do another search. And we just go restaurants near me. It should remember that I'm not in Sydney. Let's have a look. No, it hasn't. It hasn't remembered that. Maybe I've switched it off because it was too creepy. But anyone who's got the memory switched on, it's going to remember things from past conversations. And that means that is not going to be what everyone sees. They will see stuff that is specific to them. And with all our AI assistants, that's eventually what we're going to have. We're going to have memory about our purchases, about our location, dates of purchases, all of those sorts of things are going to happen. We'll be able to hopefully permit it, but we'll see. But the reason that's important, the reason that we've developed this report, is because it gives us a unadulterated incognito version of what these large language models have on us and how it compares us to our competition. Now, I had a meeting with a client last week and I said, let's just go and see what ChatGPT says about you. And I just did the search in ChatGPT, not the GPT-4o or any of the other models that are out there, which is what the brand intelligence report will do. At the moment, it's just looking at GPT-4o, but it can look at other models, and the different models might have slightly different results on your brand. So we went and had a look at ChatGPT, and we found at least 3 or 4 bad reviews they didn't know that they had on a forum that they hadn't really been to or seen. Here's the thing though, ChatGPT had, right? So if their potential customers are doing those searches and asking for advice, which is, I do it all the time now. I do it for tradespeople. I do it for all sorts of things. And things that I would normally have done with Google, I'm now doing in tools like Claude, in tools like ChatGPT. Not so much Gemini. Gemini.google.com is not one of their best tools. Google AI Studio is fantastic. And I would suggest that you follow the Google Gemini team on X, because all the latest releases and everything, what's happening there, is coming out on X. And you see it all there first. But these tools that we're using right now are just the tip of the iceberg. So here's one that I've got early access to. I'm a beta tester on this tool, and I may have talked about it earlier this year. It's a tool called Paradigm, and Paradigm is an AI spreadsheet, basically. So it will create all sorts of lists for you. And well done to the team, Anna Monaco, who was the founder, and her team, because it's just a brilliant tool. It's not cheap. And even as a beta tester, it's still not cheap, but it is quite amazing, and I'm still getting my head around it. But the reason I'm telling you about this tool is because these would be things that you would normally have had to go and do with Google, like creating a sales prospect list. Now, I've updated I said I want custom templates, and I've just updated my profile. So now I can get PR contacts, and this is the one that I'm building for clients at the moment, price comparison, right? So you think about that. If you're a retailer right now, you're probably doing that sort of exercise via Google. Well, now we can do it with this tool. And it's these sorts of things that you will not be using Google for anymore. And it's because it's using another search engine called Exa.ai, which is a search tool for large language models. So it goes off and grabs the data, and then the different large language models, and Anna has said they're using a few different ones in my correspondence back and forth to her. And the results are pretty amazing. And it's still in testing at the moment, and it's a little bit, obviously there are little things that you'd like improved, but what I'm seeing so far is quite amazing. And the ability to just tell it what templates you want. Now, all of these tools, including our brand intelligence report, Paradigm, all of these other tools, the cost comes down to the number of tokens that are being used by the large language models. And in Paradigm's case, what Exa AI is also charging for those credits or tokens. And it's the amount of data that you get back. Now, if you prompt these tools the wrong way, if you don't have clearly thought out exactly what the output that you want from these tools should be, then you're going to waste your money, because all of these tools get charged by tokens. So for instance, a spreadsheet I've created this morning, after I created it, I went, probably should have done this, and probably should have done that, probably should have done this. And that spreadsheet cost me 400 credits. What's a credit? We don't exactly know, but we know what the credits cost, and they cost 0.0005 of a dollar. And I've got about 25 usable rows of data from that. Okay, so it starts to mount up if you aren't prompting properly. So with all of these things, think of how is your business being perceived by all the different models out there, including, the ones that this is using. You need to understand, which is why we've developed the brand intelligence report. And I'll put the links obviously to the book and the brand intelligence report in the description on YouTube. So have a look for it there if you're watching this on another platform. Depending on how long the video goes, it may or may not make it to LinkedIn, so I better wind it up now. But I'd just like to finish off by saying thank you, everybody, for the last 19 years. I wouldn't say I look forward to another 19, but I'm hoping I'm doing something else by then. I think we all will be. I think we'll all be maybe basking in the light of our AI servants, or we will be being controlled by the machines themselves. Who knows? I prefer to look on the bright side and have a sensational week. Thanks again to everybody who came to the webinar last week and has already purchased the book. Thank you to all those people. And if you have purchased the book, please leave a review, and please just click on the link, even if you don't want to purchase it, because apparently that helps as well. So thank you very much, everyone, and we'll see you next week.